Hey, welcome everybody. This is John Paul Mendocha, the Raging Verbalist. Actually, I'm also Dr. Speed Selling, and this is Raging Verbalist number 34. Hard to believe, but we are up to number 34. And if you've come here, if you're watching this for the very first time, what we're talking about is mostly business, things that I observe, things that I do. And with me, as always, is the lovely Sandra. Sandra will be, if you will, the person who can ask the questions. So if you ever have questions that you want answered by me, want to get something out there, all you have to do is go to the Position to Win Facebook group and put that in there. Also, you can always go to positiontowinbook.com. You can find out other things that I do and check it out there. It's available on Facebook and on YouTube. Check out the YouTube channel, hit the like button. Even if you don't think about it, just, it'll just make you feel better. It's just, you could help somebody out. That would be doing it. Subscribe, you could do that. Also, this happens every Friday or thereabouts. Murphy is always there to snarl up and bite you, or bite me at least, in places that I don't even want to discuss. So, having said that, let's just welcome in Sandra. Sandra, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Doing great. We had a little bit of fun. For those of you who don't know, I do where I record this from is in a third world country. But the combination of power outages and internet outages, you would think that I was buried in the heart of maybe Bolivia, but no, I'm actually in the U.S. But tells you a little bit about the infrastructure. And the thing I always love about it was when my cable modem goes, or my cable provider goes down the drain, I get to talk to somebody in the Philippines who then tells me how sorry they are, and they don't fix anything, but they do feel really bad for me. So I think it's customer service by criers and mourners. Bring on. Oh, how sad is he? Okay, bring in. Well, three of us will harmonize and we'll all wail and cry for you. Still don't have damn internet, but you're okay. So anyway, enough of that pissing and moaning. So Sandra, we're talking about an interesting topic today. I know that. Kick us off. What do we have?
Yeah. So how do you go broke selling a pair of $340 jeans?
Now, for those of you who are not sitting there and having covered the mirrors of your house and all those things, for all the hipsters and fashionistas, hard to say. I mean, especially when you're doing this early in the morning. But Lucky Brands, those are the people who make Lucky jeans, have filed for bankruptcy. Say it isn't so. They have like 200 stores around, I guess, the U.S. and the globe. And they just filed for bankruptcy. In fact, they're immediately closing 13 stores. The really interesting thing is that they're actually in my book. Hold up book, John. See, I have to have my own problem. Hold up book. So if you go look at my book, which is Most Businesses Fail in the First 5 Minutes, you'll find out that I talk about Lucky jeans, which is their highest end jean. Now I know they have lower priced ones for those of you who just can't make it to the top tier. Know that, but they're at $340. So how do you go broke selling $340 jeans? Well, I think there's several things. First off, they were started in 1990. For those of you who don't know the Lucky brand, and I think their official corporate name is Lucky Brand Dungarees LLC. Though I don't think dungarees. There's not a lot of, because again, much more predominantly sold to women than guys, from what I could see in my research. I don't happen to own a Lucky pair, but anyway. But what you can, and by the way, the way I look, the size that I am, they don't have a big and tall Lucky thing. But anyway, so Lucky brand jeans, they went broke for a variety of reasons. The biggest one really is they were struggling with the thing called, and I know it's brand new, you may not have heard of it before, but it's called the internet. And the internet is a serial killer, and the internet has been a serial killer since its beginning, its inception. It is one of those things that goes out and kills unsuspecting businesses. And I don't think they recognized how prevalent, how important it was. Yeah, they probably had they had a website. They probably had maybe even a good website, but that isn't what people want today. You got to have something really exceptional. And they were stuck in the brick and mortar world, and they got 200 stores. lots of overhead, lots of people. So I think that's one of the big things. And then to put the double whammy, you get the pandemic that comes along, COVID-19. Now you can't have people come and shop, can't have people come in groups, can't have people do that. And all of a sudden you got, the makings of an absolute disaster. And the disaster is called, going bankrupt here in July of 2020. So all of those things came together and put the whammy on them. I have no doubt that they will be bought out. The brand itself has cachet. It has some value to it. It's just that their business model has now run its course. And that will be an interesting thing to watch where they go and how they kind of emerge from this. So that's how you go broke selling $340 jeans. Is first off, you have traffic going down at the stores because, of course, this thing called the internet. I know it's brand new. Some of you may not have heard it. I might be giving you something shocking. And by the way, for those of you who are not picking up how sarcastic I am, I was at the original, very first internet show back in the 90s. Okay, long time ago, I knew about the internet. Long time ago, I started telling people, "Watch out! This thing is a force. This thing is going to change the world." And even today, what was one of their excuses? Well, we didn't see the impact of the internet. Wow. Talk about, did you guys ever have like some forward thinking going on there? Anyway, so that's the answer to that. So Sandra, what do you have for me after that?
Yeah, so if you don't have a pair of lucky jeans, they can be lucky, but maybe not that kind. Anyway,
Whoa.
what's
Tell ya.
the most what's the most expensive pair of jeans you've purchased?
So yeah, maybe I should start by asking you. So Sandra, I mean, since you're stylish, I mean, and all of that, she actually has the big sunglasses because her name changes, by the way. She goes from Sandra to Sandra. Anyway, so I had a little inside joke. She, and it's done in jest. But so, what are the most expensive jeans that you will buy? I mean, you are right in their demographic, right? You're right down the person they want to sell those jeans to. So, how many pairs of Lucky jeans do you have in your closet?
I have zero, but I refuse to pay more than $20. That doesn't mean they're bad quality. You just got to look for the deals.
So
Got to be
Sandra obviously was contributing to their demise,
Yes, that's right.
I'm sure there was somebody at a Lucky store waiting there. They had a list of women who hadn't come in to buy jeans, and her name was right at the top. And so they're saying, well, wait a second, where is that? Well, for me, I think that watching how the whole jeans thing rolled along. First business I ever started was actually a business that sold mail order. We sold bicycles and sportswear. And it's because we wanted to ride and we wanted to look cool. And at that point in time, there was this whole thing about getting jeans because the brand was Levi's. And if you wanted to become a Levi's store, first off, and I had to go ask them because I was, over the top. I was a pushy guy, unlike sedate, quiet guy I am today. And I walked into the Levi's rep and I said, hey, we want to carry Levi's. And the guy looked at me like, I don't know. And then he told me that you had to buy $3,500 worth of jeans. Understand, I started the business on a $20 loan from my mother. So $3,500 is a little outside of our realm of possibility. And then he told me that we had to stock so many jeans, and then we had to have a standing order, and they needed to ship. And by the way, they needed to see, our warehouse facility, which was actually my partner's, extra bedroom in his house, but it wasn't an extra bedroom. It was something we appropriated, which his parents were not too happy about. It's what entrepreneurs do, right? We're just like, move in, yeah. And it's ironic because, of course, that there was this whole explosion in new jeans because Levi's was struggling to meet demand in styles. So my guess is probably the most stylish, expensive jeans I ever purchased was, in the height of having money and feeling like that cool 20s guy, making a bunch of dough in technology. I probably have paid $100 for a pair of jeans at one point in time and then went, what am I doing? But I think that's probably the most I ever paid for those stylish jeans. Couldn't get into them now, but it's probably the most I ever paid for a pair of jeans. And it was interesting because, of course, as the whole jeans wars, I know that's hard to say, kept going on, is that you would see new companies show up. And think about it, Lucky's showed up, or Lucky Brand showed up in 1990. So there's a lot of companies like Guess showed up, and then they had very provocative ads. And then, everybody kept pushing. But of course, all during, I lived through the whole Jordache phase. I had a pair of Jordache jeans. That was probably one of the most early expensive pair. And even though I was a skinny guy, they didn't fit very well. I was like, man, I mean, I don't know. I got to get skinnier. But anyway, so that's probably about $100, probably the most expensive I've ever purchased. Nowhere near that today. I mean, I go to the big and tall, and I look for a bargain, and I look for something that fits and's comfortable, and probably not like super stylish. So I'm not going to go loving with them. Funny story, quick funny story about jeans is that I was on top of the World Trade Center, and there was a restaurant called Windows on the World, and it was a bitch to get into, and I really didn't have like the cash money to bribe the guy, and they had a very strict dress code, and this guy walked in with a navy blazer, a cool looking shirt, unbuttoned down to his navel, gold chains, a couple of women hanging off of him, and of course he's wearing a pair of jeans. They're wearing jeans. Everybody's wearing jeans. And it said strictly no jeans. And this guy shows up after I've been waiting next to the potted plant to get seated on a reservation that's now an hour old, walks up to the maitre d', slips him some dough, and all three of them get whisked into the restaurant. I walk up, little bit of righteous indignation, and say, what the hell, man? What's going on? He's got jeans, they got jeans, everybody's got jeans. What is that? And he goes, well, you don't understand that some rules are flexible. At which time he kind of rolled his hand over, and I said, hey, I've given you as much dough as I'm going to get. By the way, I ended up having a meal there. It was very cool, but I was by the bus station. So, I got to also, talk to a bunch of guys who were, speaking Spanish. So there you go. But that's my jeans on the top of the Windows on the World. And never made it back. Always thought it would be cool to go back. Never made it back. And of course, sadly, towers are gone. But the reality of it is that jeans have this kind of thing, this mythology going on. So that leads us to Sandra.
Yeah. All right. Tell us your experience of actually going into a store, a Lucky store.
Well, well, let me ask, so you've never been in a Lucky Brand, Lucky Jeans store, right?
I haven't, no.
Oh, okay. So, and clearly when they see me walking up, they're like, uh-oh, what's this guy doing here? He doesn't fit anything, I mean, now, it's not they have like a security thing, but, everybody in the staff knows, something's wrong. So I'm at my timeshare in downtown San Diego in the Gaslamp District, and just down the street, because I would go and do these morning walks, which is really cool because early in the morning, I mean, at night, this place is loud, it's noisy, people are clubbing, not now, of course, but people are doing all this stuff. And so I'm kind of used to it, but I get up, for those I get up crazy early, like, 4 in the morning. So I'm out walking around at 6 in the morning, and they're cleaning the sidewalks and taking out the trash and all that stuff. And I walk by, and here is a Lucky Brand, Lucky Jeans store. And I look in there, and it is one of those really well laid out retail stores. Now, if you do what I do, if you're a person who's done consulting in marketing and sales and advertising, you always want to look at different retail concepts to see how well people are doing and what they're doing and how they're doing it and how it works. And I've become fascinated, and I say, look, I've got to come back by here when they're open. Now, this is years ago. And I come back by, and it's like 10 in the morning. they're not open still, right? First off, people are going to buy jeans that late or jeans that expensive don't get up that early, I guess. So I go back and it's like 11 o'clock and I walk through the store and it's just like me and the staff and they're like watching me as if I'm going to like shoplift a pair of skinny jeans. And it just strikes me how expensive these jeans are and how much this thing is costing, and also how it now starts to remind me of the kind of inverse proportion rule in clothing for especially for women, and that is the less cloth the more it costs kind of thing. That's true of like you know swimwear, it's true of lingerie. Turned out it's true of jeans. These guys are, they're shredded, they're chopped up. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that my mother would patch. This is the kind of stuff my mother would throw away. No, Mom, no, the knee is cool that it's gone out. Now, but of course, these are precision shredded jeans. So I sat there and I start talking with the staff because there's nobody there except me. And of course, they're all sitting there very snooty, holding their Starbucks, and I've got my own Starbucks to hold. And I said, talk to me about this. And they go like, who are you? What are you doing here? Going to buy these for, going to buy a gift card or do something. And they tell me the story about how these are aimed at very fashion conscious. Their average customer is somewhere between 16. That means their parents are paying for them. And in my experience, and about 35. That's their key market. And they're 80% women, 90% women for the most part. And I said, when is the store busy? And she goes, well, it's busy later at night because that's when the whole place is rocking. And in fact, they stayed open pretty late. So they opened late and they stayed open late. So what I did was the first time I went there, and and they were busy. I mean, again, I've made several sojourns to this because, frankly, I do want to watch it. It's a great place to watch trends. Is that the first time I went there, the place was packed, and they were doing some serious business. And there are these three women, all in their 20s, and they're sitting there, and the one comes out of the dressing room. And no, I'm not hanging out, loitering by the dressing room, but they had dressing rooms all over the place. So the woman comes out. And her two friends go, wow, those look fabulous. And she goes, well, I don't know if I should buy them. And she looks at me because I'm like the only male in close distance. And she goes, what do you think? Should I buy these? Do these make me look great? Do I look sexy in these? And I'm like, now understand, given the age differential, of course she looks great, but more importantly, yes, she does look good. And she goes, well, I don't know if I should buy them. And I said, how much are they? And she says, well, they're $340. Now, you can buy a lot of things for $340 that aren't a pair of jeans. And I was a little bit blown away. And I said, well, what do you do? And she goes, well, I work for this business. I'm doing pretty well. I'm out of college. I'm on my own. I think I deserve a pair of these jeans. And I said, then I guess you should get them. Now, that was my first close encounter with the Lucky Jeans buyers. And the interesting part about it is that they had a certain level of cultishness. They had a certain level of status. They had a certain level of, you're not going to get this just going out and buying a regular pair of jeans. Now, if you think that the guys at Levi's haven't figured something out, at this point in time, Levi's had a large store 5 blocks away. And this was a pilot store that would allow you to go get custom pairs of Levi's for the ungodly sum of like $200. And people were going in there to get themselves all measured up and get custom jeans. So this was an interesting time. Now, watching them go along, I can tell you that the store was not as busy as we move forward. But more importantly, I kept seeing those same process repeated over and over again, which is people were paying vast sums of money for them. Now, the reason why I put them in my book, and in fact, if you want to go check out my book, go to positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com. The title of the book is Most Businesses Fail in the First 5 Minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it. I'm my co-author, co-conspirator, and business partner, Gabe Batista. I put a lot of energy and time into it. And we talk about the Lucky brand. We talk a lot about Lucky G's and a lot of other things. To me, Lucky has got some legs, pun intended, because of course we're going to watch them survive because the brand has cachet. Also, if you want to go check out some other things that I do, because by the way, from positiontowinbook.com, you can get to some other things. I'm also have a new project called the Turnaround Engine. So you can go to turnaroundengine.com, turnaroundengine.com, and also check that out. Also, if you have not taken the time to subscribe to this on YouTube, or hit the like button, or watch me on Facebook at Position to Win. By the way, from Position to Win, you can then put in questions and get them answered by me. I have been doing consulting for a very long time. I've been doing turnarounds for 27 years. So if you have a business question, in all likelihood, I have some idea, knowledge, and insight. And this is absolutely the cheapest way you're ever going to get me to answer your questions, is to do it this way. So I would ask you, go check it out, go find out what you can. And hopefully what these little segments do is give you a sense of what you need to do, because the entire world is giving you marketing, sales, and advertising lessons. The question is, are you awake in class? Are you taking notes? Are you being aware? Are you getting things done? So Sandra, where do we go from here? I mean, now that we're talking about the guys at Lucky and all that, so what's next? Where should we go?
Yeah, what can we learn from Lucky Brand going broke?
So here's what we can learn from Lucky Brand going broke. First off, if you have lots of retail locations, especially today, everybody who has retail locations is in trouble. When I was in the finance business, I can tell you that I had I discovered, I don't know if I discovered like you discover, some major something, but in business, this is an important thing. You may want to write this down, which is overhead. You can't eat overhead. Here, let me say it the right way. You can't eat overhead. Overhead will eat you. You can't eat overhead. Overhead will eat you. And what that means is that every single location, every single thing that becomes a fixed cost that you have to pay in spite of where business is up or down, left or right, this way or that, you will find out that it just is insidious. It chews you up. Having 200 locations, and that was the right business model maybe when they started, maybe. Because that was 1990. Hard to sell, I can tell you from my own experience, because remember, mail order is the precursor to most of what e-commerce is today. I can tell you selling clothing via mail order was not a cool thing to do. My most successful thing I ever sold were rugby shirts, real rugby shirts, because they had the little rubber buttons, and I wrote some pretty decent copy, and I sold it in Boulder, Colorado, a college town. But I can tell you for the most part, it was hard to do. Today, very different world. So when they started in 1990, good idea. Let's go out and open all these little shops, these boutiques, and we'll be very specialized. Good focus. I like that, and away they went. However, the internet came along and started pounding the living daylights out of them, and that is a key problem. And the biggest issue is that they didn't see this trend or refused to move with this trend. And I'm not surprised. I mean, we've seen this in lots of different industries. The booksellers. I mean, we've seen it with those people because they missed out. I mean, Amazon came along and kind of told everybody we're in the book business, but they're in the actual distribution business of a lot of things. And what people did is they didn't actually adapt to that. And Lucky's needed to adapt to it really quickly. In fact, the last 15 years. What's their excuse? I mean, I can tell and give them the first 15 years. Remember, they're, right? 1990, 2020, 30 years in business. First 15 years, I give it to them, right? But once you get to 2005, if you haven't figured out that the internet is here to stay, the internet is inexorably marching forward. It is the wave that's going to keep going and is going to crash on you. If you didn't figure that out, that's bad news. Now, having said that, if you're sitting there smug and feeling good because you have something in e-commerce, I can tell you right now, without a doubt, that there are lots of e-commerce businesses that are not doing very well because they are not staying on top of it. See, there is no set it and forget it. There is none of that. In fact, you have to keep updating what you're doing all the time. Last year, Gabe and I were in at a customer site. We did a 2.5-day intervention, turned into 3.5 days. And they have a website that while we were there, the phone kept ringing, and it was the 1990s asking them for their website back. Literally, these guys have a hard-coded website that looks ancient. It doesn't look up to date. See, it isn't a matter of where you're going to put it together and you're going to leave it alone. You're going to have to keep spending money on it all the time. One of my favorite questions that I ask, again, Gabe is the digital side, I'm the analog side, but I ask these questions. Hey, how much are you spending? I mean, I'd say it that bluntly, but how much are you spending every year to maintain and improve and deal with your website? I can assure you, having worked with lots of internet-based businesses, web-based businesses, that almost all of them are underfunding the amount of effort and money that needs to go into updating and improving their website. Sandra and I were just talking to somebody earlier this week, and I can tell you that, they're at a certain level that is not going to be sustainable and successful. So what I think we can learn is that maybe they're a cautionary tale that if you don't have a website that's up to date, you better get your act together, or you're going to end up being just like Lucky, unlucky, and being out of luck. How's that for enough punning about that? Okay, so where do we go from there?
Yeah, so what would you do to turn them around?
So the first thing, obviously, is that since they're going bankrupt, is I get rid of as many of the retail stores as I possibly can, or downsize them, or change what they are, and alter that. The other thing is I take as much money as I can muster and put it into an e-commerce space and really get that going the right way and move that along. My guess is even though somebody is paying some woman is paying $340 for a pair of jeans, that they have very little contact with that customer after the fact. Are they sending them emails? Are they sending them texts? Heaven forbid, are they actually having somebody who auto responds and calls them on the phone? What are they doing to make sure that customer engagement is there and it lasts and it continues on? Customers want engagement. Now, if you sit there and say, John, oh, you don't know me, I don't want engagement. Right. So you're that person who wants to be ignored. Is that what you're telling me? No one wants to be ignored. Now, nobody wants to be pestered either. That means that Lucky can't just sit there and say, buy jeans, buy jeans, buy jeans, buy jeans. Oh, by the way, buy jeans. But they have to have some level of engagement. They have to have some level of story that they're telling. And that's really critical. So I would look at investing as much as I can, as quickly as I can, into improving that aspect of it. The other thing is you have to consider alternate distribution sources. I know they're already looking to do that, but the number of squares are getting smaller. And by the way, I know that they've actually tried and have an Amazon store. In some ways, I would go counterintuitive to that, because the problem is when you go to Amazon is that everybody on Amazon, it's becoming a little bit like everybody wants a deal, and it could diminish the brand quickly. In fact, maybe what you want to do is build, go higher end, maybe come up with $1,000 pair of jeans. I don't know, figure out what needs to go into them for it to be spectacular. But do something like that to see if you can pull yourself out of this. But you're going to have to go much more rapidly towards the e-commerce side and do it much better than they are today. Also look at who you can get to put it up on Instagram, TikTok, anything that you can do to get people who are able to go kind of push that forward. That would be excellent. And do everything you can on the social media side. And then the biggest thing is that you have to counter the consumer's perspective, the public's perspective, that bankruptcy means death, which it does not. It is a blip. It's going to be a change, but you have to make sure that you tell people we're still here, we're still around, and here's what we're going to do going forward. So those are the things that I would do right off the bat without being on the inside. Obviously, being on the inside, I would know more, but those are the things that jump out at me. If you have anything that's close to that in your own circumstance, you probably want to contact me. You want to contact the network that I'm building, which is the Turnaround Engine Network, and see if we can help your business so you don't end up like Lucky. And go to turnaroundengine.com or go to positiontowinbook.com and get a hold of me and say, John, maybe we should go have you look at our business, because I can tell you, double, triple, quadruple whammy, internet, retail problems, COVID-19, unrest, civil unrest, going to be an interesting environment. All right, I think we have time for one more, Sandra.
Yeah. Who is going to go bankrupt next? What are your predictions?
So I need to have my crystal ball out. But what I can tell you is that any business, think about it, they have been in business for 30 years. And you would think 30 years they would have figured out a few things and gotten themselves in a pretty good position. And they did. They became, let's face it, while others were struggling to sell, Sandra, at 25 bucks, she's like going, if I can get a coupon, if I can get it on sale. But that wasn't their customer. What they realized is that there was a customer that would pay more than 100, more than 200. Some would pay more than 300. Who knows what people would pay? So what I would say is that when I'm looking at my crystal ball is that any business that is over a certain age, 20, 30, 40 years old, that has not fully embraced that they need a massive digital strategy, and they're not working at that every single day, and they're not spending energy and time, I believe that those are the next businesses that will go. So while I don't have a name for you, but any business that is in a mall today is going to be in trouble. And in fact, we've already seen a bunch of them go broke. We've already seen JCPenney. We've already seen Neiman Marcus. All of them are going through this because they never developed. I mean, I'll just give a quick example of JCPenney. JCPenney happens to sell or had sold the kinds of khakis, like Dockers, but I liked a very specific brand. And JCPenney sold this brand. And I used to go, now most people go in and buy like a pair. I would go in and buy like 5 or 10 pairs of these pants. Now, why? Because I travel a lot. And what I would do is then I would take them and we would pack suitcases. I'd have a 2-day suitcase and a 3-day and a 5-day and a forever one. And I would have them packed. And what I would do is, so I would go and buy these. Well, eventually JCPenney didn't have them in stock, or you'd have to go chase around, or you have to go try to find them. And then I said, well, the hell with this. Why don't I go on the website? Now, I've done that, and I did it. But the problem is that their website, their app is repellent for actually selling clothing. They don't let you actually buy it. And we would have login problems. And we got to the point, because I have a JCPenney card, you got to the point where I'd end up calling the call center, and they'd say, oh, yeah, about 80% of our calls are failed shopping carts. Hello? You got to fix that. So if you're out there and you're wondering about your own business, then you have to say, okay, does this work? If you want to figure out businesses that are going to go right down the drain, go check out and play customer and see how easy it is to buy. Gabe came up with a great word. I mean, it's been out there before, so it isn't like, he, etched this one in stone or had a real light hit him in the head. But he calls it friction. Friction in digital transactions is death. Anytime you have a problem, it is difficult to buy. It isn't easy. And you abandon your efforts because it's not going to work. This just happened to me recently. I was sitting at the Costco, wearing my mask, socially distancing, and I wanted to buy something. And I went online and I found out that, lo and behold, just around the corner, less than a mile away, the Best Buy had what I was looking for. And I went, man, this is great. I have the Best Buy app. I have a Best Buy credit card. I said, let me just plug this baby in while I'm waiting in line at the Costco. Set pickup delivery. It says they have one in stock. Great. As the Brits would say, Bob's your uncle. Well, guess what? It wouldn't let me complete the transaction because it said that pickup at this location was not possible. So I drive over, it's only a mile. I drive over and I go there and I say, look, this is what I'm looking for. They said, oh, okay, we'll get somebody to help you. So give us your phone number because we'll text you and they'll find you in the store and you guys will, hook up and, you'll find this thing. So I do that. Now they tell me kind of where it's at. So I'm over there looking and it's something it's going to be pretty easy to find, I would think. And the guy comes over and he goes, so what are you looking for? Remember, if I had been able to do anything on their website to precondition anybody to tell them, and this wasn't like a $10 item, this is $250. Anybody who's going to come in and buy $250, that's a good ring through the register. That helps improve their average daily ring. So I have to explain to him what it is, trying to draw it in the air with my hands. And he goes, oh, okay. And he immediately walks over to the computer and pounds it in and says, it says we have one. Now, I didn't look at him and say something sarcastic like, no shit. Why do you think I'm here? I tried to do that. I did try to explain a little of it, but, he's not interested in hearing the story. So he goes, well, let me see where that's at. And he walks over and he doesn't see it immediately. Now, I'm going to make a comment that the guys looking for stuff are not good. So 2 guys looking for something, because guys do the quick scans. Zzz, don't see it, don't see it, don't see it. And then we walk away, Anyway, so Sandra's laughing because she knows she knows that she has seen this in her own relationship.
That's right.
So he goes, well, let me go find it for you because it says we've got one in stock. Okay. So he goes to the back, the front back room by the Geek Squad, comes out shaking his head. There's another spot I can go look. Goes over, goes in the back room, walks out shaking his head. Well, the system may not be updated, but let me ask Josh. Well, thank God we're going to ask Josh. So he asked Josh, and Josh, nice guy, fully inked up, all tattooed. He's working on, covering every square inch. And nice guy, though. He goes, yeah, I did see that. Hang on. So now we have 3 of us. We're on a search party. And in 15 minutes of us searching, the 3 of us, guess what? After 15 minutes, we find the item. And now we find the item, and the item is mine in a place that he and I walked by several times. The point of the story is who's going to go broke? Well, Best Buy needs to figure out that if I see it on their screen that it says it has it, I need to pre-buy it. By the way, then I had to wait in line to pay for it. I had to wait in line to go do some stuff with it. And there you go. That's the reality of today. So who's going to go broke? If you can't figure out how to make these transactions with less friction, that's a lot of friction. By the way, if I was not so insistent, the guy would have quit looking after the first try. But we look at it this way. He looked it up, and then he went to look for it on the shelf. Try number 1. Then he went to the Geek Squad and their stock room. Try number 2. Then he went to the back room and did that. Try number 3. And then we found Josh, and he wasn't a bot, and we found it. Total elapsed time was 35 minutes in the store. So my suggestion is, if the guys at Best Buy are listening, call, text, find me. That's crazy. You got to make that easier because it should be so easy that I should have actually bought it when I was waiting in line for Costco. And when I showed up, they would have said, you know what? We may not have pulled it. We may not have found it, but we know that you're looking for it, and we're on the hunt too. Now, having said that, every business needs to think, how do I make my transactions have less friction so I can take care of my customers? So that's the sad story of Lucky Jeans and Lucky Brand. We'll see how they reemerge from this chaos that they're in today. We'll all see how businesses go. And my suggestion to you is that you pay heed to these warnings. Also, go to positiontowinbook.com, check out my book. Most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. If you buy it that way, by the way, you can also buy it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, all those other places. You can buy it digitally, Kindle, Nook, and Apple. But if you buy it from my website, you'll get a signed copy by me, and we'll inscribe it the way you want to, as long as it's not, I mean, even if it's profanity, hey, I don't care. Yeah, I do. But anyway, be nice. And with that, I just want to thank Sandra for joining me today. Thank you, Sandra.
Thanks for having me.
And I just want to tell everybody that you have just experienced the Raging Verbalist. This has been session number 34. Check us out every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific. Murphy, God's willing. And with that, thank you, everybody, and have a great weekend and a great month or whatever you're going to do. And also be safe, especially with the virus. Thanks, everybody.